The coupled roller shade with the PowerView AC motor can be specified with a left or right hand motor. It can also be ordered as a standard or reverse roll. In this video, we'll be installing the coupled roller shade using the standard brackets as an outside mount.
Using a pencil, center the total coupled ordered width over the opening and mark each end. Check the ordered height and determine the proper bracket height placement.
This product is heavy, so mount it to wood, metal studs, or concrete with concrete anchors. Drywall anchors are not recommended.
Place the end brackets 1/16 of an inch in from the end marks. Using a pencil, mark the locations that will be drilled. Pre-drill the screw locations using the 1/8 inch drill bit. Attach the brackets using the screws provided. When installing into drywall, do not over-tighten the screws and make sure the brackets do not compress into the drywall. Determine the location of the intermediate brackets by starting from the motor bracket end. Measure the motor panel ordered width from the end mark. Repeat this process for each middle panel. The distance between the last intermediate bracket mark and the idle bracket mark should equal the end panel ordered width. Align the projection of the intermediate bracket on the mark and use a pencil to mark the drilling locations. Pre-drill the screw locations using the 1/8 inch drill bit. Attach the brackets using the screws provided. Check the brackets for level. Now, tighten the installation screws. Brackets must be aligned and level.
Now it's time to install the bracket covers. For the outside edge of the bracket, the cover just simply snaps on from the outside. For the interior bracket covers, to cover the screw holes, it snaps in using these two features here on the bracket, fitting into these two features here on the holes.
Note the location of the programming button, here, on the motor.
When installing the roller screen into the bracket, the screen is going to fit into these two features right here. But I need to be careful because I have this antenna that cannot be replaced in the field. So I'm going to bring it into the bracket here, slide it into place. I'm going to mount into the bracket until I get a click.
The bottom bar should be positioned just below the fabric roll with the proper standard or reverse roll application.
The idle end compresses into the idle end bracket. So when I go to install the shade, I'll push the idle end in and then insert the motor into place. Now we need to ensure that the idler nut is in the install position. If the idler nut isn't all the way at the end of the idler, it won't compress beyond where that nut is located. So we're going to go ahead and turn our nut all the way to the install position.
First, insert the idle end of the shade into the idle end bracket. Then slide the motor end into the bracket until it clicks. Tighten the idler nut completely until it is towards the end of the shade.
So now it's time to couple our coupled shade. And there's some things to know about the coupler. It has two ends to it. One's a square end and the other is a drive end with three features on it. On what would be the motor side, but it is the coupled side of this shade, we have the three features that fit into that coupled end and drive that shade as the other product is driving it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and insert our coupler here, and it slides in. It kind of hits a secondary feature, and then you can push it on into the shade.
Insert the coupler from the second shade into the idle end of the installed shade. Hold the installed shade in position and rotate the coupler so that the features match the shade adapter. Push in the coupler. Connect the shade adapter of the second shade to the coupler. Compress the idler end and insert fully into the idle end bracket. Tighten the idler nut completely until it is towards the end of the shade. Now it's time to remove the paper banding.
So now we've removed our banding from our shade, and we can see here that the bottom rails don't completely line up. So what we're gonna do is make an adjustment on our bottom rail height at this point. Undo the idler nut and run it all the way back out as far as we can get it in this application. Compress my idler end and turn, and you can see the fine teeth that line up here. It gives me a really fine adjustment. Move my idler nut back over to lock the shade into place so the idler won't adjust again once the shade's operating. Advanced planning is required so that a licensed electrician provides the AC power in the correct location. PowerView AC comes with a blunt 3-wire connection. Remember to check your local codes for wiring 120 volt power. Now let's test the shade by pressing the programming button located on the motor, simply by pressing and releasing. And make sure you cycle the shade at least 2 times.
Program the shade to the remote, and if needed, follow the steps in the installation, operation, and care guide to adjust the top and bottom limits. We have now successfully installed a coupled roller shade with the AC motor.